Welcome back to the Finger Wag Podcast. I'm your host, Gideon Hertz, and I'm joined today. Got a special guest, Colin Daliwhal, Jr. at Georgetown. We're here to talk about the student perspective, and as we jump into a really, I think, important week for the Georgetown program, culminating in a game on Saturday where we hope to see a lot of the students out. I wanted to talk to someone who has a really good perspective on sort of what students are thinking and feeling. And so I'm really excited to have Colin on. Colin, how's it going?
Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here. Great to talk some Georgetown hoops, talk about the student perspective of what's going on the hilltop right now.
Awesome. Well, let's start by just tell us a little bit about you, your perspective on Georgetown basketball, what role you play in kind of the Georgetown basketball universe, and your history with Georgetown basketball.
Of course, yeah. So current junior now on campus. I've kind of been a lifelong Hoya fan. Grew up in a Hoya household. Grew up watching grew up watching my dad scream at the TV when we're missing free throws throughout the last 20 years of my life. So kind of was born into it, and I kind of found my way to Georgetown after all that time, loving my time here at school, and kind of knew that I wanted to get involved on the fan side of stuff on campus. I'm on the executive board of Hoya Blue, which for any ex-Georgetown students out there knows that we're the student section on campus. We try and promote not just basketball, but all kind of Georgetown athletics, men's, women's, attend games, promote that to students. And that's kind of our identity. The goal is to get people more engaged with Georgetown athletics. And yeah, I think that's a little bit about me, and kind of the goal, as always, is more student engagement, more enjoyable games for students. That helps our teams win. We hear that from them constantly, is the more people in the stands, regardless if that's basketball, volleyball, football, that all helps. So yeah.
That's awesome. And really why I wanted to have you on. I appreciate you doing this and your perspective. Before we dive into some of the specifics here, I want to hear about Hoya Blue and talk about some of the other groups on campus as well. But before we dive into that, who's your all-time favorite Hoya, and do you have an all-time favorite Hoya memory?
All-time favorite Hoya memory. I think I'm gonna cheat on the memory. I think it was getting into Georgetown, because that's a pretty good Georgetown feeling. But no, I think that was exciting purely because you're going to be on this campus, the history of the school, the program, knowing that I'm going to be at the games, involved. That's an exciting feeling as a 18-year-old trying to figure out what they're doing with their life. And I've always been a huge Dikembe Mutombo fan. I think he is the epitome of what a Hoya should be in everything that he did throughout his career at Georgetown, in the NBA afterwards. So yeah, no one really better than him.
You're preaching to the choir, obviously, on that, naming our entire enterprise after the man Dikembe, but I couldn't agree with you more. He is the epitome of a Hoya. Tell me a little bit about Hoya Blue, because I think, there's people hear the name, they know it's the student section on campus, but you, as somebody deeply involved with the work that Hoya Blue is doing, tell us a little bit about the group and how you all operate.
Yeah, so we're an open access club on campus, meaning that anyone can join. The goal is just the common link between everyone is that they're Georgetown athletics fans. They're looking for something to do on campus. We're probably 200 members strong right now. Probably pretty consistent with that number of people who show up to the meetings, events we host, kind of people who rotate through attending the soccer games, volleyball games, basketball games, things like that. And then the obvious goal with Hoya Blue is to, like I said before, just get the message about Georgetown athletics out there. Just get people more engaged, more involved. And we do that a variety of ways. I mean, we'll get more into it later, but obviously, like hosting pregame events before a lot of the games, or kind of advertising, a lot of media goes out through us, or we try and do our best to make our own graphics for games, for all the sports, to bring players to meetings. We could talk about that more later as well. But like, for example, we had Julius come to a meeting this year. He was fantastic to kind of get people excited, get people fired up about the basketball season, talk about little bit about his growing up in New Zealand, how he ended up in the States. Just like kind of get that personal connection, because fans seem to be far more engaged when you can kind of cheer for a team or cheer for people who you have some type of connection with. So Hoya Blue has long since preceded me. We have a huge archive of photos where you can see the student sections packed out at at all the games, the shirts, the kind of like history of it all. And I think there's no denying that at some point that kind of declined and fell off. And I think our goal of this kind of executive board right now in the club is obviously to kind of return Hoya Blue to that state it was probably 10, 15 years ago, where that club was 1,000 people strong and it was
Mm.
impossible to get tickets to basketball games, and being in the front row at the games meant something and really mattered to people.
That's really, really helpful, I think, for all of us who know Hoya Blue, know what you all do, but maybe not exactly how everything works. And certainly some of us who didn't go to Georgetown, understanding a little bit of behind the scenes. I know folks may have some questions because they probably heard about alternative group Hoya Gray last year. I know that popped up and they did a lot of really great work to try and drive people to Georgetown basketball specifically, whereas Hoya Blue certainly looks at all of Hoya's athletics. And I will say, I know that Hoya Blue has gotten a really, really great turnout to a bunch of other sports, and not necessarily Georgetown hoops,
Soccer,
which is
especially
great.
this year, but yeah,
Soccer, yeah, which is great. I mean, and those teams have been really, really successful. I think we want to get to a point where we're there. But tell me a little bit about your perspective on Hoya Gray and how the two groups sort of can coexist, if they can.
100%. So yeah, so kind of Hoya Gray is funny enough something I was involved with as well. Kind of that was a group of my friends, mostly seniors last year.
Mm,
Um, just big Georgetown basketball fans and wanted to kind of put something formal together to drive students to the basketball games, just like us, just like anyone else. Um, their focus is kind of only on Georgetown basketball, and I don't think there was ever really an issue from my perspective with that. I think there ended up being some tension because some people in Hoya Blue, which I wasn't on the board of last year,
hmm
some people kind of felt that they were getting their feet swept out from under them a little bit. But at the end of the day, everyone's Georgetown fans. The goal was just
Yeah.
more engagement, more events, more people at Capital One. Kind of like we said, fill out that student section, support the teams. It makes a difference. I mean, going into the basketball, but I mean, you saw what this team can play in, and when the stadium's getting going and electric,
Yeah.
and when we played in Rupp and we played out in UMD, this team seems to thrive in those situations. And if we can emulate that at home as positive support rather than them playing in a negative, hostile environment, my
hmm
God, I can't believe, or I can't even imagine what this team's ceiling could be. And yeah, so it was a group of friends kind of wanted to promote game, ran some events. Dollar Beer Night was one that they kind of focused on coordinating. And that's one thing where I think Hoya Gray has an opportunity to kind of continue in a sense today, is kind of with one-off programs, especially alcohol related, because there's certain rules being like a student club on campus, especially with a lot of younger members in Hoya Blue,
hmm
is something that we can't necessarily push ourselves or promote ourselves. So having like a external group or external kind of entity to do that is sometimes helpful. And yeah, I think at this point we're all friends. Everyone wants the same thing, so there's no bad blood there at all. And I'm still close with those guys and love to see them back on campus and at games.
That's great. I think helpful background and more sort of hands pulling in the same direction, I think is really great. I don't want to dwell too much on the negative. I think as you sit on the executive board of Hoya Blue, having been involved with Hoya Gray, just your perspective as a current student, I think I kind of want to brainstorm with you almost, but I think we do need to go through what are the issues. And to me, I'm really interested in your perspective on sort of why it's difficult to get students to games consistently. I will say one thing that I have always thought, and I'm interested if you agree with this, or if you think that there's other factors at play. But to me, the biggest issue is probably just the quality of the team, and that if you win consistently over time and build the team back up to where it was, a lot of these problems they go away. And that said, until you do that, you're going to have to get creative about how you get interest in the team. So Talk to
I
me
think you're
about what,
spot on.
yeah.
You're spot on. Any sports fan knows that it is 100 times more fun to cheer for a team that's winning
Yeah.
than it is to cheer for a team that's losing. And, like you're always going to have diehard Georgetown fans who are at every game, who are involved with the team online, involved with events, in the recruiting, what's going on, the news. But that can't be the expectation for every Georgetown fan. When this team was great, I think back to like the 14-15 team, like teams of teams playing high caliber basketball. I think maybe that's the last team where you can really say that team was playing high caliber basketball to the standard maybe of the Georgetown pedigree, that kind of the Georgetown brand and what that holds is you need to win games. And I think we're in year 3 now with coach. He's always said that year 1, he was going to get his legs underneath him. Year 2, he was going to build up the program. And here we are in year 3 with a huge set of transfers, or an incredible transfer class, returners who have shown growth over the summer, who are focused on making it and playing at the next level of basketball in the NBA. I mean, I think this is the year where you can put some wins together, and going into Rupp and beating in an exhibition game, I think immediately after that, the tone on campus changed about this team quite a bit. There was almost no conversation about the team or basketball season, preseason. No one really cared. And you start seeing some posts online, you start seeing some comments, you overhear some conversations like, here we beat Kentucky. That's a big momentum builder. And then you go into the UMD game and you win that game. And here we are 2-0 in the season with a huge week, like you said, Binghamton and then Clemson on Saturday. You win those games, you get people to those games. They experience what Georgetown basketball can be like, what it means to kind of be in a packed student section at Capital One is more fun than they're going to have doing anything else on campus, in my opinion. And I think that's the momentum that builds, but that goes back to, you need to win games to do that. I will say there's also something to just how engaged students are with the team. I think that builds over time as well and builds off the wins. Is players are going to be far more engaged with the students if they're winning and the students are showing support. So it's kind of just it's something that spirals and kind of, once the momentum gets going, it's really tough to stop.
Really, really good perspective. So short of winning, which I think we're all on board, that's probably step 1. And hopefully, knock on wood, we've got a team this year that's gonna do that. What are, from your perspective, the biggest issues and barriers that exist to getting students to the games more consistently? I think people online love to speculate about this, and I'm very eager to get somebody who has real, actual expertise and experience doing this right now. Put this to bed. What are the
At the end of the day, you don't ever, like you said, we don't need to focus on the negative, but I've worked with, given my position in Hoya Blue, it is effectively my job to get people to these games. Sure. And it's difficult. It's difficult for tons and tons of reasons. But I think primarily you have to remember, Georgetown is a very academically inclined school. Everyone here is coming here for an education, and they're coming here to join clubs, to be involved in things on campus. You're busy. And there's kind of this phenomenon on campus. I call it the Google Calendar effect. Is Georgetown students religiously schedule every moment of their lives from sun up to sundown with exactly where they're going to be, exactly what they're doing, exactly who they're doing it with. And that kind of plays into the next issue, which is poor marketing. Is there really hasn't been that big of like a online effort in our emails or flyers around campus about kind of how are we going to get people to know that Georgetown basketball is even playing. I think that is the biggest next step. And that's kind of the real issue, is people didn't know, people plan something else. It's far easier to not go to the game than it is to make the effort to get downtown, to go to Capital One. And that's the other thing. Like, people like or dislike the fact that we're playing at Capital One. I think it has the opportunity to be incredible because it's an NBA stadium. It's in the heart of the DC. You can build on the fact that Georgetown has fans in the DMV area. People want to go to those games. People want to bring their kids to the game on Saturday, but it is 30 minutes each way in DC traffic. And you build that into everything else that students are doing on a daily basis. And it becomes very, very difficult to justify that if you're not a diehard fan.
Mm.
Like we said, especially when the team isn't winning or playing a big game.
Yeah, I think we all, everybody's got their opinion on playing at Cap One, and I think that's helpful, just like how it manifests for students and the idea of planning far in advance. I'm sort of, even as you're talking, thinking about, what are the things that we can do or people outside of campus can do to help with that. I wonder if you have any thoughts on what people who are not responsible for marketing Georgetown, are not responsible for getting students to the game, but is there anything that supporters and people just kind of online and around could do to help, do you think?
I think at its core, at the end of the day, it has to come. I think it has to come from on campus. I think it's
Hmm.
really tough to reach students if you're not in charge of an email list, or you're not sitting
Yeah.
outside of a location on campus handing out flyers saying we have a game on this day against this team. I think no need to go into the details or really call anyone out, but I was a little disappointed with kind of the marketing efforts so far this year, especially this year. I think
Mm.
last year, especially, they did a really, really good job about marketing the games. We just didn't win when it mattered. And that kind of
Yeah.
goes to what we talked about earlier, is you have to win, you have to play well. But this year there was a ton of hype coming into this season. I think the most buzz of any team over the summer, watching the kind of transfers commit to Georgetown, seeing how this team was going to shape up, playing in Global Jam, like all those things add on each other, they build. And I would have loved to come back to campus and been like, just had Georgetown marketing or Georgetown athletics marketing be overly in my face about when these games are, what's events going on. And it feels like, from my perspective at Hoya Blue, is right now we are the reliable, consistent
Mm.
source of that information. And obviously we don't have as big a reach as the official athletic marketing channels. That being said, that doesn't mean there haven't been strides made. I think we can kind of think about some of the more positive things that have happened over the summer.
Yeah.
And actually had the opportunity to work with kind of the head of in-game promotions now for athletics, John Cornfield, who was added kind of late last spring, early summer, to kind of come in and focus on building out the in-game program, building out the promotion schedule. And he's been fantastic to work with,
Mm.
fantastic to kind of figure things out and kind of figure out how to get people to the games. That goes back to another thing, is Georgetown students love free stuff. Maybe every college loves or like every college student loves free stuff, whether that be food, a t-shirt. So we kind of put all these plans in place to kind of have this a fantastic promotion schedule. I don't know if you've seen it or read through it, but there's some interesting giveaways for the students, especially this year. And I think people should be excited about that. They should be like, oh, I want to get that shirt. They were all designed really well, was able to give feedback and
Mm.
impact or input on that stuff. But then the marketing on that kind of fell short. And I was a little disappointed, thinking about, hey, we did all this fantastic work to get these items ordered, get them on the schedule, figure out which games are going to be the title blue game, which games are going to be a gray out, which games are going to be the pink out, stuff like that. Shirts to go
Hmm.
along, giveaways to go along with all of that. And at the end of the day, we get so many emails every day. What's one more email from athletics telling me, here's the weekly basketball schedule, here's the weekly athletics
Mm.
schedule, period, without having to go do that myself. I think of just like simple, low barrier to entry things like, let's get in every single game day. We need an email with the ticket link and the information about how to get from campus to Capital One.
Mm.
Athletics runs buses between campus for us. And I overheard someone in the library yesterday, a freshman, say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that they had buses for us to get to the game. And if
Oh,
any
wow.
student on this campus is ever saying that, there is a serious disconnect of the people in charge and the people they are trying to reach. If you think of students and kind of how they would be able to build up this program from the fan perspective or the spectator kind of energy perspective, we're not the largest undergraduate school in the world, but we're definitely not the smallest. We have 8,000 kids on this campus, all
Yeah.
of who, in some capacity, they're Hoyas, they're Georgetown fans. They go to the school. Everyone loves showing a little bit of school pride. Let's make it as easy as possible for those people to know where they need to be, at what time, what they're getting out of it, how to bring as many friends as possible. Like the kind of emphasis on ticket sales this year was also disastrous. That link
Mm.
didn't go out until for student season tickets until 2 weeks before the first game, 3 weeks before the first game. And then at that point, it wasn't like we were getting a post every single day or an email about it every other day. It was once a week until 3 days before the game, where they had sold 250 season student tickets out of a 8,000 student undergrad population. Like, that feels a little unacceptable to me. And in my perspective, I think they're a bunch of little small things that all add up very, very quickly that wouldn't
Yeah.
take that much energy or effort to do.
Yeah. This is all, I think, really, really helpful, and sounds like early, often promotion and marketing flood the zone a little bit so that they really just cast as wide a net as possible to make sure that students have all of the information going in, can plan their season, can plan their days, can get to the games, know how to do that. We just got to do things that make it as easy as possible for
And
students to
maybe
get to the games.
And maybe that is the call to any Hoyas or graduates who are in the DMV area or elsewhere, anyone who's a big Georgetown basketball fan reading this. Let's give that feedback. Like, let's
Mm.
say, hey, everyone is aligned in what they want here. I can't imagine any scenario where people don't want more people going to the games, more engagement, more fans. I'm sure the athletics office is like, hey, if we can sell more tickets, then amazing. Like, that's more revenue in our pocket.
For sure.
Like, that money adds up, especially over a full season where you're selling out student tickets, you're selling out Cap One. Like, if that would ever happen late in the season when this team makes or is poised for a big Big East playoffs run, like, I could see that happening. Like, send an email, talk
Mhm.
to people you know. I think like those are, maybe it takes 5-10 minutes out of your day, but I think just the more voices saying that and the more voices emphasizing that, hey, this is what people want, that can only do good things.
You mentioned some of the things that are already in progress, and I appreciate you. I was not aware of the promotion schedule and sort of the work of the in-game team. So excited to hear about all of that. Are there other things that you would like to see in the future, whether it's promotions, whether it's events? We've talked about marketing, but specific steps that you think would be really helpful for
Yeah,
students.
I know we did a blue and gray scrimmage this year. That was fun
Hmm.
to attend. That was a good way to kind of see some great basketball on campus. That game actually ended up being very competitive, very fun.
Yeah.
Um, and but I think to kind of like just like see what other schools do in terms of like a midnight madness event. And this is something Georgetown's done in the past. If you go
Hmm.
back, I want to say maybe 5 years, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Um, no, haven't done one in the Ed Cooley era. But again, it's just about getting people excited, getting the information in people's hands. And if they can go to an event on campus in McDonough for an hour late one night in October, like, that gets people excited. It's a way to put a QR code up on the screen in McDonough with, here's your link to buy season tickets, here's your link to buy single game tickets, here's the schedule, stuff like that. And that way it doesn't get pushed to right before the season. You can spread it out a little bit, kind of stay top of mind for a little bit longer. And I'd say the other big thing is just like, as great as this team has been and has as mature as this team seems to be, I would love to see a little more engagement on their side. I think about
Hmm.
kind of what happened in for the Kansas UNC game. Caleb Wilson, freshman at UNC, they have a T-shirt giveaway planned with a sponsor, and he goes online and says, "Let's not do the T-shirts. Let's save those for another game. Let's do a whiteout and all the UNC fans at Deanie Smith Center to show up in white. Like that's the type of engagement. That's the type of connection we want to have with this team. Like let's make it informal. Let's make it not so produced. Let's make it just, hey, we want fans here. Like we want to get to know you guys. Like there are tons and tons of avenues for that. I think there was an effort with this whole Hoya Bold marketing campaign. They did kind of player intros or player profiles, so to speak, at the beginning of the season. I think those are great. Let's keep it up. Let's do more. I think if there's nothing else you take away from this podcast or kind of as we think about anything, is the foundation has been laid. We have so many things going for us this season. Let's not waste this opportunity. Let's put our foot down. Let's do the rest of the work. Let's get Georgetown basketball the fans it needs and fans it deserves to kind of support the talent and quality that this team has, and kind of the potential that this team has demonstrated, we all know is off the charts. I think everyone has kind of figured it out. And then in the moments in the UMD game and the moments in the Kentucky game, you're like, oh crap, this team could play. Like you can, this is different. This is different than anything we've seen from Georgetown in the near memory of any of us.
So we've had two big wins so far, and kind of an interesting first couple of games, because one, obviously the home opener on a Tuesday night, as you said, they're not, not a ton of marketing, but also it's a Tuesday night against Morgan State, not the biggest crowd. We had, I think, 4,000 plus at that game. I think would love to see more, but it's hard to ask people to show up to a 6:30 Morgan State game.
6:30 tip downtown in the middle of midterms is never gonna lead to a outstanding student turnout. I think athletics knew that, and I think we as Hoya Blue knew that.
Yeah.
I think I will say, as much as you want to view that as a negative, like we had a decent student section there. I think the student section was probably 200 to 250 kids. Like we were starting to spill into kind of the upper level of the student section. That was all extremely positive in my mind, when the average attendance at, I'd say, the non-conference games last year to start the season were probably below that in terms of attendance. So it's a step in the right direction. Obviously not where we want to be. But for me, the thing that was actually the most positive is Hoya Blue took a group of students to UMD for the away game. Athletics helped us out with the tickets. We coordinated it all, got people over there. And I saw more fans away in College Park than were at our own student section in Cap 1. And obviously it's a Friday game. It's a big game. It's different, but that just shows that people on campus are willing to go. That people were taking party buses to the UMD game. People were making that their Friday evening event. People were kind of like really, really into it. I would say I personally saw over 150, 200 people that I knew at that game. Like there were a lot of Georgetown kids there. And that can only mean good things for when those people have time on their schedules, bring their friends, and that kind of just spiders out and spirals out to the rest of campus. It kind of starts with a small group and kind of goes from there. And I think that's what we're trying to do with Hoya Blue. It's tough to kind of get in people's faces and tell them, oh, you have to go. But you start to hear a little bit of chatter, and the chatter this week ahead of Clemson is extremely positive. And I'll say that it's starting to feel, I wouldn't say it's the same level of intensity as, say, the UConn game last year, when I think that was Georgetown's best attended game from a student perspective, as well as a total attendance perspective. And I don't know how long, but it's starting to feel a little bit like that. And I think if we keep this momentum up, only good things there will only be only good things we can say about the student section and students' commitment to joining to kind of, or just build, like, piling on the momentum that this team has kind of laid the foundation for.
Yeah, I think I unfortunately was not able to be at the Maryland game, but knew some people there let's say both my parents were there who are Georgetown alums. They came in from New Jersey and
We had some Oscar
uh
Hoyas chants in
yeah,
in that
it
arena.
sounded
You could
like it
hear them.
was a pretty significant Hoya contingent there, which is great, which is awesome. Students showed up, appreciate the perspective on that. And it just goes to show that those big games, scheduling good game, people want to see good
100%.
basketball. And I think,
And
yeah.
Coach Cooley knows that. And I think he knows that people want to watch good basketball. Players want to play good basketball games. Like what that means for people don't want to go play Morgan State or Binghamton for the whole non-conference schedule. And it felt like that's what our non-conference was, maybe outside of I think the Notre Dame game last year, like our non-conference schedule was not all that impressive. Um, and it just kind of goes to show, like, again, going back to the momentum, like the schedule gets published and you're like, you point out the dates, you're like Clemson, or you
Mm,
go UNC away. Well, Hoya Blue will be going down to that game as well. Like people want to watch good basketball. People want to be in those high energy environments. And I think there's a real opportunity to build that in DC at Capital One, not just for those away games. So excited to think about Maryland coming back and playing us next year at home,
yeah.
UNC playing us at home. Those will be fantastic games for next year. And it just lays the foundation. If you can kind of continue this momentum, if you can continue to win, have a successful season, build again in the off season, bring in some very highly touted recruits, like you are in the money, so to speak, if you can do all the little things that we talked about before, right? Or at least better than we're doing them now.
Yeah. And I think, good place to sort of end it. Let's talk about one last thing, which is, as you say, looking for the opportunities to showcase good basketball. Game coming up. So 2 games this week, Binghamton on Wednesday, which is another 6:30 tip. I wouldn't expect there to be a ton of interest all around for that game just because Binghamton is not the best opponent, but hopefully some folks show up to that. But the Clemson game, Saturday, 12 p.m. tip, probably is your biggest home non-conference game of the year. You mentioned a little bit of the buzz already. How are you, what can we do between now and then to help drive interest in that game and get the students out, do you think?
Yeah, and this will be a call to both Georgetown athletics and alumni or in fans. Let's just flood social media with information about this game. The more buzz there is, the more excitement, the more engagement that picks up, the better. I know on campus, something that we haven't done necessarily in the past is we're Hoya Blue ourselves. We're flying for this game, and that's a whole different discussion of whether that really should be our job. But we're
Mm,
gonna do it because obviously we want more people at the game. Like we're sending out the links to tickets, link to season tickets. We're sending out all of that information to get people there, make it as easy as possible for people to figure out what time they're boarding the bus on Saturday morning to get down to Cap One and show up and have a good time. I think if we can push this online, push this to our emails, even like I know like a text blast to previous season ticket holders or previous owners, or if you know someone in the DMV area, mention, hey, Clemson is in town playing Georgetown this weekend. Like Georgetown's playing good basketball. Clemson appears to have a good team this year. It's going to be a competitive game, a game that I think people are going to say Clemson could go win, and a game that Georgetown fans are like, I think we have a real shot at winning this as well. Those are the games you want to see. Those are the games you want to be in the building for. And just reminding everyone that that's what every basketball fan, every sports fan wants to be a part of. Is you want to be at those big games. You want to be there for the big moments. You want to be there where you can lay the foundation. And for the rest of the season, you want to think about, hey, this was the turning point where this team really figured it out. And kind of, you think back to some big statement wins for programs or moments where it all kinds of clicks. I think Saturday has the opportunity to be that game.
I think a great place to sort of end. I think I'd love to have you back on, Colin, as we go through the year and start to think maybe about getting into the Big East season, how things are going, how you're thinking about the team, what the buzz is like on campus. I think as sort of outsiders and folks who are not as in tune to the students currently and the vibe on campus, it's really great to hear and get your perspective on what's going on and how we can support everyone towards our kind of shared goal here of bringing up the attendance and really getting Georgetown basketball back to where it was. So appreciate your time.
Of
Any final
course.
thoughts that you have?
Thank you for the invite. Would love to come back. Always good to talk some basketball, to chat about what's going on and kind of, like you said, give that perspective as to what's going on campus. If that isn't as apparent as it's tough to kind of know what's going on. So kind of getting the word out there, thinking about or sharing how students are thinking about things, happy to be that perspective, and also know that there's a huge contingent of students or a growing contingent of students on campus who are in the same kind of headspace as me, as to big Georgetown basketball fans, would love to come talk about stuff, would love to share their perspectives. And I think having more student engagement in things like this podcast is growing. This podcast is can be the foundation for kind of the connection for on campus, off campus. I also like to say we didn't talk about this, and I'm kind of sad we didn't. And maybe I'll come back next time and talk about this. Is our student publications on campus are fantastic and have done a very good job this year getting coverage for those games. I know we've had staff writers for the Hoya, the Voice in attendance at GW. We didn't even talk about GW, but they were there giving play-by-play. Let's get students to follow those media accounts as well, because even if they're not at the games, it's on their phones, it's in their face. They get to know what's happening live if they can't watch the game. They're great writers. The content is fantastic. They care about the program. They care about what Georgetown basketball means from a student perspective. And there is your voice of what the students are thinking about the games. And the more students that read that, the better. The more Georgetown basketball fans that read that, the better. If we can drive up engagement to those publications as well, to this podcast here, to anything online. I know Big East Twitter has always been a good kind of proponent of this. And I think Georgetown, even more in the last 2-3 years than anything else, has kind of, Ed Cooley's come back in and started to build this program. Engagement online has been up. Like, it all adds up. It all kind of comes together. And it all hopefully will manifest in students showing up at Capital One, this basketball team performing well, and Hoya fans everywhere getting to watch some incredible basketball for this season and into the next.
I think that's spot on. Great to hear. We'll do our part at the Finger Wag. We'll have you back on here soon and maybe do some regular kind of student panels over the season to keep that connection rolling.
Amazing.
Appreciate
Well,
your
thank
time,
you so
Colin.
much.
Appreciate all your thoughts.
Absolutely. Go
Hoya
Hoyas.